Hello, everyone. Welcome. While there's no one here yet, we will be answering questions today. We'll give the folks a minute to come on. As you're coming on, why don't you, if you're willing, tell us where you're calling in from? That'd be great. We'll get a few folks. It's at the lunch hour Eastern time in the United States. I know we have people from all over the world, but take a look at the. I'm going to start. We have a lot of mail-in questions, so we'll get to those in just a minute. But tell us where you're calling in from, and we'll have a little chat about all that. Oops. Yeah, I just left the chat over at Slack with my producer. All right, so we're letting a few people in. It's still a light crowd, but let me. I'm going to pull up some questions here in just a minute, and we will get to all the Q&A. All right. Give it just a few more seconds. Got some great questions from the audience, from the emails and everything. See the comments. Bend, Oregon. Welcome, Linda. That's cool. I really like that. So let me read the first question. Linda, if you have a question, please. We intend to be doing this quite a bit, these lives, so consider yourself the first participant in our new experiment on Facebook groups, YouTube Live. Should be pretty interesting over the months as we grow this. All right, question number one. This is really good, so pay attention if you're just joining us. Hi, Mike. I have no doubt I am a sugar addict. I've tried hundreds of times during my life to quit sugar. I am 60 years old. My question is, why do I feel so miserable at night when I'm finally sitting down to relax and watch TV? If I don't have my huge, all capitalized, huge bowl of ice cream. Even if I've been off sugar for a couple of weeks, tough, but I've done it, I still think about ice cream, want it, crave it, and feel meh without it. Eventually, I cave and I'm found at the grocery store on the ice cream aisle. I can't seem to get past a couple of weeks sugar-free. Why? I know my brain is chemically wired to crave sugar. I wish I didn't have to eat anything at all to survive. That would be easier. This is from Ilana. Ilana, look, welcome. This is an amazing question. It goes to the crux of what we do. A couple more people have joined us. Please tell us where you're calling in from. That would be really cool. So what's going on here is that this is very difficult, and I have tried to, excuse me, narrow in on the reason for exactly what's happening with you, okay? And sugar detox in and of itself is a combination of a physical withdrawal symptoms and an emotional withdrawal system, okay? And the linchpin, the thing that makes this all tick, makes us makes this work well for us. We've done 57,000 some odd detoxes. It took me almost 20,000 detoxes to get to the answer to this question. So let me explain what's happening on that. And congratulations, by the way, Ilana, that you're getting 2 weeks in. There's a little bit of muscling involved, a little bit of don't use sugar even if your ass is falling off kind of thing. A little bit of just really uh, white knuckling it and making sure you just don't do it. Okay. But what does happen, and you're hitting it right on the button, right about week two, for a lot of people, is this emotional weirdness starts to happen. You get weepy, and a lot of this is unconscious because it operates at the limbic level of your brain. Okay. It's not in the frontal cortex level of your brain, right? Where it is truly is in the deep limbic brain. And this has been trained since you were a child. Okay. Your parents were probably complicit in this. Um, uh, uh, there's the question, and part of Ilana's question right now. Why does she feel so miserable when I'm finally sitting down and relax and watch TV? There's a couple of anchors going on here too. The TV and this time of day are anchoring you to this. Okay. And what's happening, as I continue what I was telling you, is that once you get somewhere between days 7 and 21 or 30, there's an emotional dysregulation happening because you have used sugar for, if you're 60 years old, you've done it for likely 58 years or more, probably in the womb, but you've done it for almost 6 decades, where your parents were busy, they had other kids, they had a job, they had a life, and they realized that they could reward you and quiet you if you were to get sugar. Okay. And your little body gets this dopamine hit. It gets this hit of reward chemicals: dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, GABA, oxytocin, adrenal glands, endorphins, all affected by sugar. And so when you ingest it, this little body gets this great response. But like every drug, as you get older, you need more of the substance. Okay. You mentioned, there it is. It got huge. These are word for word from your messages there, Ilana. Um, Huge bowl of ice cream. You need more to make you feel the same way. And what you're actually doing has nothing to do with the ice cream. I mean, yeah, there's some physical components of the fat and the sugar together, but what you're doing is soothing the day. You're soothing the stresses and strains of the day. Okay. This deep limbic response is soothing you, so that you're able to not fall asleep, but pass out. Write that down. Not fall asleep, but pass out. And then likely you may be waking up in the middle of the night, both to go pee and to because you're in sugar withdrawals again. But one of the things that I've discovered in this decade of more of doing this is that people in that range that you're talking about, and this is right where everybody's having, so don't feel bad, in that 1 week to 3 week period, they start to realize, they don't realize this consciously, but unconsciously, their ability to handle life's everyday stresses and strain. Your husband's a pain, your boss is an ass. You start to realize that you have been using sugar for 6 decades to soothe your emotional life, to soothe how you feel, to make you feel just a little bit better for about 20 minutes. That's how long it lasts. And if you haven't nodded out, or gotten into the television program, or gotten a second bowl, then you usually need to get more. And it gets worse as you get older. It gets worse as the years progress. It's harder to get off of. And if I could focus on just one thing that is the linchpin, the center point of the message that I'm delivering, it is this message: is that most people don't consciously think that they're soothing. Now, God forbid it's old trauma, sexual or physical abuse, but even everyday stresses and strains of the job, the kids, the husband, the relationships, all of these things are soothed by sugar. If you have become accustomed to that. Okay, so I want you to understand in a deep way that you have to find new ways to self-soothe. And all you have to do is Google self-soothing or self-care, and you'll see hundreds and hundreds of different ways. Take a walk, go for a run, go to yoga, get a massage, um, call a friend, make whole healthy food. There's a million different ways to get a manicure, get a pedicure, get a massage. Bunches and bunches of ways for you to soothe yourself. But what I want you to understand is to make this connection. Adults, if you drink beer or alcohol or whatever, and you had a rough week, you know consciously that you are having a beer at happy hour on Friday to just chill, to soothe yourself. You're thinking about it. You know that's what's happening. But when we're talking about chocolate, it doesn't manifest that way. When we're talking about sugar, it's just, wouldn't a chocolate bar be nice? Wouldn't a soda be nice? There's this craving from the deep limbic brain that says, let me have just a little bit because I feel like that's what I want. I want the crunchy, I want the smooth of the ice cream or whatever. And it is this, I'm really glad that we kicked off with this question because it's super important as to how this manifests and continues to manifest in your life, even though consciously, this is your frontal cortex, your control center is intellectually trying to quit. The infamous Dr. Lustig says you cannot fight this biology. It's such a strong, powerful. Remember, this reward system was grown over 100,000 years from to recreate to help us find sex and food. Okay, this is a deep survival method that we have learned to hack by these products that are in our world, the sugar that's in our world. Okay, by eating Oreos on the couch. Imagine, that this reward was put out for you to find that berry bush next year and to chase sex and feel good and procreate the species, right? But as our frontal cortex developed, our limbic brain has not been caught up with it. It's still in that evolutionary period of just give me the reward, and the sugar will provide that reward. Okay, so it's an amazing mixture of the biochemistry of your body and your emotional life that is causing you, Ilana, to continue to eat that sugar. And you have to join a community. You have to um, because 99% of people plus, probably 99.5 or more, are not going to understand your struggle. They're not going to understand what's going on with you. They're not going to feel it viscerally like you feel it. Okay. Super good. So Linda was the first person on. She understands that. Grew up dessert about every meal, even if it was fruit, but was still sugary. Yeah, that's a definite. Definite. So let me go on to question number 2. Hopefully that set the stage for the rest of the questions, because I want to dispel something. This is not your fault, okay? This is an evolutionary wrong turn, okay? This started in earnest, really, with slavery in the 16 and 1700s, where Great Britain grew the largest drug processing process, the El Chapo of the drug world, drug cartel, by picking up slaves at the west of Africa and going to the United States and the Caribbean and picking up sugar. And sugar was very expensive then, but it got to the point over 100 or 200 years where it wasn't that expensive. And then there was another bump in that, which was where high fructose corn syrup came into the marketplace. in the 1980s all over the world. And that took the pandemic to another level, okay? But the same things apply, right? Which is, you're not, like, for 100 years, these scientists have studied the body. We know about the diabetes and the weight gain and the fatty liver and the heart disease. We know what sugar does to the body. But what is less understood and less known, and is becoming very popular now, is called metabolic psychiatry, where these ultra processed carbs are affecting your brain, your emotional life. They're affecting a lot of your life. So you want to understand the reason, the behavioral change, intellectually, in your body, in your diabetes, in your weight gain, But this deep limbic control center is 100,000 years in the making. And when it gets some sugar, it acts like it just ran 5 miles and it feels good. Okay. And we cannot persist in ingesting this neurotoxin. It's a neurotoxin to the brain, it's a toxin to the body, and it obviously destroys the body. Let me make sure we're on to the next person. Pindi is the asker of this question. My biggest challenge is having it in my home environment. It is literally everywhere in my house. How can I go sugar-free in this environment with zero support from my husband and children in the same house? I've already begged and pleaded for them not to bring it into the house and consume it daily. I know I turn to sugar for emotional reasons. Now, what should I do instead? Why can't I stop? I know this isn't the solution. Okay, Pindi, look, here's the answer to that question. 80%, that's a full 80% um, uh, of the people in our communities do not have spousal support. They don't have the support of their family or the people that live in their own house. Okay. Um, so, uh, you really have to, uh, you've got to join a separate community. This Facebook group, for the folks that are in it, this Facebook group is a good example of that. Um, we have other small communities, another food group here on Facebook. So being involved in a community is super, super important, okay? Because in the real, quote unquote, real world, in the world where um, everybody else is in a tribe that, and look, I want to relieve some guilt, assuage some guilt, make you not feel as guilty about this process or problem, is that no one is to blame, okay? The merchants in the 16 and 1700s had no idea what was going on. Oh, maybe the slavery, that was probably a problem, but the sugar part of the equation was not a problem, okay? The merchants up to now had only one job: to sell more sugar. Okay. And now there was some manipulation in the 60s where the big sugar paid Harvard to go against fat as opposed to sugar. But there's a lot of that in business anyway over the years. Hell, doctors used to advertise cigarettes on TV. But look, it's not your fault, okay? Merchants were just trying to create shareholder value. The culture, they would create the Halloweens and Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween, Easter. These things were not sugar holidays. They were created, Valentine's Day. They were created by the candy manufacturers. You can look the history up. It's very serious. The candy manufacturers created this using sugar as part of these holidays. And as of the 70s and 80s around the world, they figured out, all of the tobacco companies bought up all of the food companies because their gig was up in the sugar in the tobacco world. There was just too much regulations, too much understanding that it actually did cause cancer. So they bought all the big food companies and turned their addiction processes on sugar, okay, and how to use sugar to manipulate the brain, the bliss point. There's a million books out there about all this, okay? But look, most people don't know, right? So when you're in your home and everybody else is falling prey to basically the culture as we know it today, again, weird, same answer as the last one is you've got to move to a separate community. Check in every day on this Facebook group. We have another group you can check in. Make sure you're doing the 30-day challenge where there's other people doing it with you. There's people here in this Facebook group and in our community on YouTube who have gone before you and are willing to help. When you went to college, you joined a new tribe. When you joined a sport, you joined a new tribe. When you got a different job, you know, you may have been the first one to graduate from college, or the first one to get a great job, or the first one to play sports, or you joined a different group of people who are interested in a different topic. We are tribe animals, gang. We are people who want to do things together. And the people who are in your household, you've got to stop worrying about what your husband's doing or your kids doing. It is harder. I agree. We do suggest at the beginning of the challenge to clear out the pantry and clear out the house if you can. But if you can't, you're going to have to make sure that your support system comes from another community, that community being on this Facebook group, okay? Totally free. Uh, Getting involved in the challenge, I think Jao will drop a link maybe in the thing in a few minutes on how to join the challenge. There it is on the screen, but there'll also be a link that you can use. But genuinely, you have to have another support system, okay? Let me check the next question. That was from Pindy. Fiona, how do I get started? I can't get past day one. I love you, Fiona. That's a brave question and a brave admission. Again, Jao will drop in the the link to the challenge, but you can go to challenge.sugardetox.com to join that 30-day challenge. Look, honestly, that's great information. Gleaned. I've redone the challenge 5 times, 5 different times. So what you're getting is the result of 57,000 experiences with different people, from my books to these groups, to other groups that I've run, from one-on-one coaching to training over 40 coaches how to do this. There's a lot of experience in that challenge. Okay, so if you can grab that challenge, you'll understand exactly what the information is, right? What to do day one, day two, day three. But the difference is that unless you stay active in this Facebook group, if you stay active in the YouTube channel, comments and stuff, you won't get that same emotional feeling of someone else. Someone that has 2 days can help someone with 2 hours. Someone with 2 weeks can definitely help everyone. And someone with 2 months, and there's a lot of people here, including Coach Lisa and Joan and myself, who actively are in the Facebook group helping you do this. All right. That's how you do it. You've got to be able to join another group of people. All right. So that's how you get started and grab the challenge. Another Alana, why do I feel sad, unhappy even when I'm eating no sugars? I feel no enjoyment in my food or anything else. Okay, this is a great question, and it's a very simple answer. And that simple answer is it's withdrawals. Okay, it's the withdrawal symptoms, which take about um, yeah, conservatively 30 days, but really closer to 60 while your brain heals up from everything that I mentioned before. You have grooved a neural pathway in your brain since you were a child, likely from the womb, but definitely since you were a child. You've grooved a neural pathway in your brain, and that neural pathway is deep and grooved. And when you're in a flux state or not feeling well, unhappy, it calls for sugar, and then you feel good for about 20 minutes, and then you have to re ingest. But withdrawals from that means an important thing. You have to shut that neural pathway down. You have to cement it over. And then you have to begin uh, growing and cultivating a new neural pathway that is when you feel blue and depressed, you need to go walk or run or push ups or go to the gym or go to yoga or get a massage or take a sauna or get a manicure, a pedicure, a hug. There's a million ways to self soothe, and you have to change your process of self soothing. Again, this is an unconscious process because sugar is everywhere and ubiquitous. You don't think I need that beer on a Friday. You think, wouldn't a chocolate be nice? Wouldn't a soda be nice? Your boss is an ass, and you find yourself at the um, at the vending machine. But here's the thing: one of the things that happens, which is just fascinating to me anyway, and a lot of our clients, is this idea that sooner or later, 60 days from now, you'll have an argument with your husband, and you'll be so mad that you'll find yourself out on the street walking the dog. And you're like, what happened? How did I get out of the house? How did I get my coat on? You'll be thinking to yourself, how did I quickly change how I self soothe? Because in the past, you would go to the pantry and get some chocolate or the ice cream and go in your room and eat it. And instead, you have literally grooved that new neural pathway. You have grooved a new way to self soothe. You've grooved a new way to feel better about yourself, to help you in a healthy, holistic way and not one with sugar. Okay. A very important part of the process. I call it the linchpin. You might know this intellectually. Okay. Lewis B is saying self soothing. That makes sense. We know this intellectually. The difficult part is to get past day 30 with zero sugar. And once you do that, you have a few minutes to think it out. It's not instant gratification. It's like, wow, I've been 29 days. I'm not going, and I've lost 12 pounds. I'm not going to go use sugar anymore. Okay. Now, this is super important. Again, I call it the linchpin of understanding. It's the message I've been looking for almost 2 decades, which is how can I explain to people that it has absolutely nothing to do with the body, okay? Again, I've said it earlier, and a lot of people have joined us since. We've studied the body for 100 years. We know about weight gain. We know about diabetes 2. We know about fatty liver and heart disease and a million other things. There's 147 different maladies associated with sugar. It's a neurotoxin, a brain neurotoxin. It shrinks your brain. It likely causes Alzheimer's. They're calling Alzheimer's diabetes 3. Okay. But, how many times do I have to say but? But here's the thing. Knowing this about the body does not create the behavioral change required to stop it, to stop the use, okay? What is required there is to understand in a deep way how ingesting this substance alters the brain chemistry in a way that is soothing and rewarding, okay? It's to bring to the conscious level the deep limbic desire for the dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, GABA, oxytocin, adrenal, endorphins, cannabinoid receptors. Uh, all of these things are affected by sugar. And if you understand it intellectually, it's not going to help. The only way for you to get out of this is to feel it viscerally and then fight that first 30 days of wanting the sugar by being in another community, by being in a community who whose goals are the same. Because remember, we are tribe animals. We are not, we are of this culture. By hook or by crook, by accident or by evolution, we made an evolutionary wrong turn in the 1700s, okay? And we're here now, and the science says, I've interviewed 400 of the world's leading experts. The science says that the things that I've been saying about sugar, we know again, 100 years of study about the body. What we do not know, because the use and obesity rates keep climbing, is how to make the behavioral change required to get off sugar and stay off sugar. And that requires a different protocol, a different set of rules, a different set of examples, and a different set of behaviors so that you can change your behavior around sugar. You can recondition your, the scientific term for what happens when you abuse sugar is dopamine. Your dopamine receptors are down regulated. They're thinned out. You have less of them, okay? And the actual need for the drug, and it is a drug, is so powerful from your deep limbic brain that it overrides your frontal cortex, your control system, okay? It overrides it, okay? And again, it's not even, for most of you and most of the people that come to me, we're not even conscious of this behavior. It's not that Friday I need a beer thing. It's like, wouldn't a chocolate bar taste nice? Oh, wouldn't a soda taste nice? Okay. We don't think it through. It's been so I love the word, but I can't think of it. Automaticity. The automatic gravitation towards sugar happens when we're upset, happens when we're not feeling that great, okay? And you can't override it because it is too strong. It was created to find food and sex, to make the species stay alive over 100,000 years. And now we can hack it by eating Oreos on the couch. Gang, this is not something that is beatable at the conscious level. Of getting really strong about this is that if you're listening to this webinar or this live here on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you're listening to it, you are likely not, your brain power is not sufficient to make the behavioral change required to get off of this stuff, unless you realize that you are being hijacked, that your limbic system is getting dopamine and serotonin and all these good things. When people are drug addicts, it's not the alcohol or the opioids that are the problem. It's what the opioids and the alcohol do to our brain and body reward chemical system, okay? And the same thing applies to sugar. And people, there's a comedian in the United States called Rodney Dangerfield, and he used to have an act. He said, I get no respect. I get no respect. And that was his tagline. And sometimes he could just say, I get no respect, and get a laugh, because he would, follow it up with a joke about his wife or whatever. But at the end of the day, sugar gets no respect as a drug of addiction that can actually be powerful enough to do what I'm describing. Okay. Now, let me draw some parallels out there in the world so that it's easier for you to understand and grasp. In the world of what's called emotional eating, okay, lots of books and coaches and all these other people who believe that emotional eating is real. And it is. Comfort eating is real. Emotional eating is real. Here's the problem. The problem is those folks do not ascribe to the idea of 100% abstinence. So moderate, they believe you can reduce sugar, or you can, um, cut back on sugar and still create the behavioral change you need. Okay, and there are a certain amount of people that can do that, like your friend who, can drink half a glass of wine and doesn't think about it for another month. But then you have that friend who, one half a glass of wine and they're on a run for a month, a week. So what you have to decide is that about a third of people biochemically cannot ingest sugar without setting up cravings for more sugar. Okay. And this is learned as the chairman of the board, of the Food Addiction Institute. People have been doing this for 50 years, and interviewing 400 of the world's leading experts. Okay. This is over time, we've come to understand that we're all a little bit diverse, and there is a certain group of people who can't ingest sugar. And then trying to make the behavioral change that you're listening to this event for is difficult. And without understanding and guidance to get you through it, then you can't seem to get there, or people can't seem to get there. Okay. It's an amazing, it has been an amazing decade and a half for me to begin to understand all this. Okay. All right, let's ask a question here. Babette asks, and look, gang, if you want to put some questions in the you can see the challenge over there. The challenge will give you, you can see it on Facebook. But if you want to ask a question, you can ask it right there on Facebook, and it'll come to me. But these are questions that you guys have sent to me over email, and you can keep doing that because I'll be here every Wednesday. Or I think we're going to do it on Tuesdays, but every Tuesday. Sugar has been my comfort/addiction. This is Babette. Since a difficult childhood. I've gone sugar-free several times. I've been low carb for many years, except when just a little bite turns into a streak of addiction again. Currently, I'm 20 days sugar sober. Congratulations, Babette. My question for you is, what are good things to reach for when physically hungry and only wanting a little something? In years gone by, that would be a cookie or a handful of ancient grain pretzels. Now I choose those not to be options anymore. Okay, I'm going to throw you a little curveball, Babette, and everyone listening. All right. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. It's a great question. Okay. It's a great question. But here's what'll happen if I take you down that path. Okay. What'll happen is we will get focused in this information live on the food. Okay. And what I did in the first, what have been, 40 minutes, is I have tried to get you to understand that it's not about the food. I know this is the curveball. It's not about the food. It's not about the snacks. Snacking, now write this down, gang. Snacking is an emotional event, not a nutrition event. Snacking is an emotional event, not a nutrition event. Okay. When you need a snack in between meals, that means you didn't eat enough healthy fats and products to make you feel better. Okay. To make you satiated for 3 to 4 hours till the next meal. All right. And you have a habit of ingesting a snack, and that is an emotional event. All right. Now, that said, in the early days, a handful of nuts, but nuts are a problem later on. It's a long story, but a little cheese or whatever. Yes, these things are not terrible to do. But what I would beg of you actually, is to start to think about when you think you need a snack, okay, when you think you need some satiation of some sort, that emotional event. What I would ask you to do is sit down with a big glass of water, drink the water, because that'll help. And then ask yourself, and ask it this way, call yourself dear. Dear, what do I really want? What do I really need right now? Is your husband being an ass? Is your boss being a jerk? Are the kids being crazy? Um, do you have a relationship problem with your wife or your mother? Um, what is going on in your life? Because what's happening is those emotions are welling. You have an old pattern of soothing those emotions by ingesting a little chocolate, a little soda, a little ice cream, and then they calm for 20 or 30 minutes. And then sometimes you'll re ingest in 20 or 30 minutes, and it never ends. It's a never ending cycle. But what I want to do is break this idea, A, of snacking, but B, of thinking that there is something that you need to do in between your main meals. Okay. Your main meals should be satiating enough with healthy fats and, in some cases, complex carbohydrates, but each diet is different. The challenge covers all of the food. Okay. So you see those little links, you can hook to it and check out the challenge. Heck, gang, it's less than $10. Okay. It's a way to understand 15 years of my work, 57,000 people, trial and error. At this juncture, it's just pattern recognition. It's just me seeing over and over and over and over again people going through the same types of questions that you're asking. Okay. Um, So I think that my producer is putting up the questions, and so the next one may already be up. Um, Nicole says most keto or low carb people and doctors consider themselves sugar free while including sugar substitutes like stevia, monk fruit, and allulose. The same alternative flours like coconut, almond, soy. Do you personally recommend this strategy if that's the only way it can stay in remission from diabetes and compliant with this lifestyle? That's a great question. And there's one, oh, I think you took it away, but I'll answer that one first. Look, gang, here's the problem with that, okay? The problem with that sweetness, here's the problem with sweetness, allulose and monk fruit and all this crap. First of all, on our diet, there's nothing to sweeten. Peppers will start to taste sweet. Carrots will taste sweet. Macadamia nuts will taste like candy. You will start to evolve to a healed, it only takes 10 days, healed taste bud system, okay? And real food will start to taste healthy and interesting and fun again, okay? Because you've been hooked by the diet industry and the allulose and all that crap, and the food producers, okay, to put all that stuff in there, right? Let me quick look at this question again, make sure I get it all right. Do you personally recommend this strategy? No, I don't, because what happens is when you get sweet taste on your tongue, all your reward chemicals are cranking up, waiting for the calories to hit your stomach, which is the sugar. And then there's no calories in that. And you're going to hear me say this live. I want you to write this down. Sweeteners and caffeine, by the by, keep the cravings alive. Write that down. They keep the cravings alive. And who in hell, in God's name, wants to do this if you're not free, if you're always craving, if you're always fighting your devil on one shoulder and your angel on another, have some chocolate, have some chocolate, have some chocolate. You don't want this. You want to be free. You want to be able to go from lunch to dinner, not thinking about sweets, go from dinner to bedtime without thinking about sweets. You want to be satiated with the real food that you're eating, okay? Sweetness, there's nothing to sweeten. There is absolutely nothing to sweeten. Now, I want to cross a bridge here that this usually brings up, which is it sounds restrictive. It sounds like, you're cutting all the quote unquote joy. I raised two sugar free kids from the womb until they were 6 years old. And people would literally say, I'm depriving them of a childhood. If I could tell you that story today, what happened because of that, it would blow your mind. You think I was lying or bragging or both, okay? Um, but it was the experiment was a major success because of the wiring of their brains. Remember the beginning. If you're coming in late, listen to the replay. The wiring of their brain was never attracted to sweetness or sugar in any way, okay? And so they didn't reach for it through their whole lives. And they didn't develop a need to self soothe with it, okay? And if you're looking for sweetness, quote unquote, if you're looking for um, something to sweeten, you're likely just a little off path, okay? Flowers, as part of the question too, is the same. Sometimes, in some cases, coconut almond flour is powdered fructose. Okay. Now, I don't have time to get into the fructose part of this, but fructose is the uh, not likely, it is the offending molecule. And for those that don't know, fructose is half glucose. I mean, sugar, the table sugar molecule is half glucose and half fructose. Okay. And the fructose part of it, the interesting part about fructose is that, and it's also pronounced fructose is that we used to get fructose once or twice a year when bushes were ripe. Okay, that's it. And now we have a 24/7 drip. And the fructose is, it definitely has been proven that it affects the brain reward chemicals. It's been proven that it is the culprit in fatty liver. We now have a epidemic of fatty liver in 5-year-olds. Fatty liver. This is an alcoholic's disease, but it's processed the exact same way as alcohol is in the liver and turns it to fatty liver. And fructose, additional fructose that we can't process, a little bit gets processed in the intestines, turns into fat. So fructose is the major problem, okay? And almond flour and what was the other one? Almond and let's see, coconut. These things are they're powdered fructose is what they are, and it's even worse. And it creates keeps the cravings alive, as I often say. Okay. So, gang, this has been an amazing 40 or 50 minutes now. I'd love to answer more questions. We've got a bunch of more people on. You can put it in let me look at the Facebook group. Maybe my producer can throw some, if there's another question. You did put another question up, Joe. Babette was here. That's cool. Kathy says your brain was hijacked by sugar. This is all on the Facebook group. But if there's any other questions that I can answer, I'd be happy to do it. I can stay a few more minutes. But we're going to be here. Keep an eye on this Facebook group. You can always come back to this if you came in late. And there was a lot of good stuff at the beginning. And we're really excited to kick off this series where I'm helping you guys and answering questions in the chat, or if you want to go and get on the challenge or get one of our, what was the thing that he put up? I'll double check what it is. Go to sugardetox.com. You can see it right there. There's a lot of great articles that you can read. A lot of, there's some free stuff. There's a quiz, a lot of good stuff there. Stuff that you can kind of get a judgment on where you feel you fall in that grouping of about a third of people biochemically can't use sugar without setting up cravings for more sugar. And then there's about a third, and some of you may fall in this group, of people who, um, if they get a reset, 70% of the boxes and bags and cans and takeouts in the world have sugar in them. They just don't even know they've been eating so much. They're not really candy or ice cream or soda nuts. They're just have been eating the food that the system produces, and they've gained some weight and maybe had some health issues. So um, those are called harmful users, and they could reset and possibly enjoy some sugar. I often get the question, gang, do I have to do this for the rest of my life? Do I have to not have sugar for, like an alcoholic, not have sugar for the rest of my life? And the answer to that question is it depends. Okay. My only job in life, as I see it now, is to get you to see 90 days of 100% abstinence from sugar and flour. And in our program, I probably shouldn't throw this in there with the caffeine because it scares people. But the caffeine thing is, it's basically it's called wired together, fired together. Chocolate, tea, coffee. When your body gets that caffeine stimulation, it's saying, okay, where's the calories and where's the other part of this equation? Chocolate, tea, and coffee is a speedball, an upper and a downer. Caffeine and sugar. That's what John Belushi died of, a speedball. It's very pleasant when you're taking the edge off at the vending machine from work. Okay, very pleasant, very relaxing, because it handles both of your withdrawals at that time. So, gang, happy to have you join us. You can see in there the links to the challenge. It's less than $10. It's about the best deal out there. People ask me, why do you do it for so little? I've done it for as much as $100. Actually, yeah, $100. I do it because I want to reach millions of people. If you figure out, here's an interesting stat I'll leave you with. Of obese people, which is 1/3 of the United States for sure, likely in some states it's bigger, it's almost 40%. And mostly that number is creeping up in the world, but definitely in the United States. That 33%, that's over 100 million people, are obese clinically. And then another third, another 100 million, are overweight. Okay. But of the obese group, there is a self-survey that's been done, and 72% of them call themselves sugar addicts. They say, I'm a sugar addict. And here's the one thing I want to have you avoid, okay? A lot of times, a lot of people that I work with will tell someone, and I say it myself, I ask me, why don't you use sugar? And I say to them, I'm a sugar addict. And they say, ha ha, giggle, giggle. They don't actually say that, but they're, ha ha, I'm a sugar addict too, right? 9 out of 10 of them say the same thing, because they feel some uncontrollable draw to it. But it's that kind of disrespect, like I talked about Rodney Dangerfield, I get no respect, that sugar gets, because you can give this to a child. It's like, it's not a problem. Like, no, 99% of parents aren't going to be angry with them. 90% of them will thank you if you're giving sugar to a baby. And so, in essence, the science hasn't caught, or the public understanding, the public opinion hasn't caught up with the science yet. Okay. And this happened in drinking and driving. It happened in smoking. It happened in condoms in bathrooms. In our lifetime, I'm a little older maybe than the audience, but in my lifetime, the drinking and driving thing was just don't get caught. Literally, the cops were the enemy. Okay. And now it's a societal, since Mothers Against Drunk Driving and other people, and logic and science, is that, drinking and driving is a really serious thing, and everybody takes it seriously. When I was young, you could smoke in airplanes and buses and everybody's home and offices, and no one cared. And now it's an ostracized group that has to stand outside the office or outside the restaurant. This is going to happen in sugar, and what you want to do is you want to be ahead of this curve. Um, what we provide is the only behavioral change process on the market that works almost 100% if you do what we ask. Okay. Um, anyway, there is links all through the comments and all through the thing that will tell you exactly where to go to join our challenge. Again, it's under $10 because if you think about it, once this thing starts to go, there is in excess of 100 million people that need the service, and we want to get it to all of them. Okay, gang, love you. I'll be back next week. I think it'll be a Tuesday. Go to sugardetox.com and make sure you're on the mailing list. You can submit questions. Wonderful, easy way to get your questions answered if you don't want to ask them here. And hopefully, many more people will be asking questions, and as this grows. All right. Welcome to our first one, and thank you very much. We will talk to you guys real soon. Okay. Take care. I love you guys.